Yo, what is up guys? Stelboy here, aka Blue Collar Sports TV. Hopefully you guys are doing well. If you're new here, smash that like, hit subscribe, all of that good stuff. So yeah, this video is a quick one about a fight that is in the process of being signed. In fact, it may have already been officially announced at this stage. Before we do, I'm not going to get into Jake Paul versus Chavez Jr. for obvious reasons. Just a fake fight. Nothing to report really, right? What can I say? Just another Jake Paul fight. Jake Paul is an interesting addition to boxing, however. He's like boxing's way of confessing that there are fights that are fake. Even boxing normies, and I hate using that word, but we'll use it for the sake of this video, but even boxing normies, the same people who will call somebody like me or others in the community a conspiracy theorist or hater when we question certain fights and the legitimacy of those fights involving quote-unquote real boxers. But even these normies who don't believe that there's any fixed fights, these guys are calling out Jake Paul. The amount of comments on Jake Paul content surrounding his fight with Chavez Jr. is fix. Chavez Jr., why did this guy only start throwing punches in round 9? And when he did, Jake Paul looked uncomfortable. Well, because it was a fake fight, I would say. That'd be my guess. But yeah, fixes don't go on in real boxing, just Jake Paul fights. But anyway, onto some real boxing, I guess. A fight that is seemingly scheduled to go down in November. A fight I like. Welterweight, Brian Norman Jr., defending his WBO welterweight crown against Devin, the Dream, or Sleep Inducer, Haney. What do I make of this fight? Interesting. Brian Norman, 24-year-old welterweight, WBO champion. Fair enough, he hasn't fought the greatest level of competition, but seems to be coming into his own a little bit. He really kind of announced himself in that war with Giovanni Santillan, a fight in which many people picked him to lose. He beat Santillan, he was awarded the WBO title when Crawford moved up, and he's defended that title twice against, fair enough, less than stellar opposition in Derek Cuevas and Jin Sasaki. He actually fought Sasaki in Japan. Both times he knocked those guys out, he was aggressive. He did what you were supposed to do against that level of competition. Again, fair enough, we don't know how good he is, but he seems a strong welterweight who's got decent enough power, decent athletic ability. He tries to put on a show. From what I've seen of him, he tries to put on a show. He likes to get aggressive, he likes to mix it up. Feeling himself, like I said, he seems like a very confident fighter. Devin Haney, on the other hand, what can I say about Devin Haney? Boring, dull, uninspired. Seems to be going through a bit of confidence issues right now following that shellacking against Ryan Garcia, an influencer boxer, a guy who was unfit for that fight. Haney still took a shellacking. I think that's still living in his head rent-free. We saw him come back against a shell of Jose Ramirez, and what we saw was, without a doubt, running. It wasn't boxing. It was a display of cowardice in Times Square. Running around like a rat, So Devin Haney hasn't really proved anything in that win over Jose Ramirez. To me, it just shows that he's not over his demons as of right now. Haney's a lot more experienced. He's fought better competition than Brian Norman Jr., has to be said, We've seen Haney in there with Garcia, Lomachenko, Jojo Diaz, Jorge Linares, etc. And while, he got lucky in the Loma fight, but he has been in there with some good skilled operators. But right now, man, I'm not convinced where Haney's head is at. Brian Norman, you would imagine, is going to try and put it on this guy. Devin Haney, combined with his confidence issues, is a fighter in which can't punch. Devin Haney, at lightweight in particular, had huge advantages on his opponents, like Lomachenko, like Jojo Diaz, and he couldn't put a dent in these guys. All of that snack rehydration, putting on 20-25 pounds after the weigh-in. Couldn't put a dent in these guys. Now he's moved to 140. Aside from the Prograis fight, hasn't really shown that he can bust a grape. You know, not against a washed Jose Ramirez. Not against a chinny Ryan Garcia who's got no defense. It's funny, it's like when Devin Haney fights a guy a little bit close to his size, he seems to struggle a little bit, you know? This is the same Devin Haney who certain man in the boxing media, certain people in the boxing YouTube scene were placing as pound for pound. It's almost like they don't know what that means, right? But Brian Norman is bigger than Haney's average opponent. He's an inch shorter than Haney, but has an inch in reach. He's used to the welterweight limit, seems to be punching pretty hard at the welterweight limit, seems to have good energy, good aggression at welterweight. He's in a better place than Devin Haney right now. What is Haney going to do? Well, we know what he's going to try and do. It's in Saudi Arabia, so whether he's going to be allowed to, whether the referee allows him to is unknown. But we know Devin Haney is going to try, and let's just be honest about it, he's going to try and run, pop a half-hearted jab and steal the fight. That's what he's going to do. Brian Norman has a unique opportunity here. It's a big stage, so obviously winning this fight will boost his name out there. But Brian Norman can do a massive service to the real boxing fans out there who like to see boxing contested within the rules, as well as in the right spirit. Brian Norman has a unique opportunity to rid boxing of Devin Haney and really stick a huge fork in his career, because if Haney can't beat Brian Norman, who is still an unproven welterweight, where does he go from there? You know, it badly damages his market value, which is incredibly inflated anyway. You know, unorganically inflated. You know, Devin Haney was basically a project within boxing among certain parties. Hence why he's had so much preferential treatment throughout his career, but that appears to be wearing thin. Not many people are buying the Devin Haney stock anymore. We heard what Turki Al-Sheikh said about fighters who fight like Devin Haney, how he fought against Jose Ramirez. You know, if what Turki is saying is true, then maybe this fight is potentially set up for Brian Norman to announce himself. I hope what Turki is saying is true. I hope he is honest about that, because the death of that sort of quote-unquote fighting can't come soon enough. And should Brian Norman be the executioner of such a fighter, not literally, but figuratively, if he can be the executioner, then that's going to endear him to boxing fans, like genuine boxing fans, I think. Cue those people who say, oh, you just don't appreciate good boxing. No, you don't know what boxing is. You're a casual, I would say. You've just been conditioned by the mainstream boxing, I guess, establishment, the stakeholders. You've been conditioned to accept a product that is subpar. You are conditioned to accept fighters cheating in every single fight. Certain fighters. And I hope this is a step in the right direction. But Brian Norman versus Devin Haney, I think there's a lot riding on this fight. I'm rooting for Brian Norman, not only to win, but to win well. To win in brutal fashion. I think that would be better for boxing. Well, there's no I think about it. It would be better for boxing if Brian Norman won. You know? Would be a step in the right direction, I would say. But yeah, it's an interesting fight. I'm not sure whether it's been officially announced, but it looks like it will be very soon. Hopefully we get a good undercard. And yeah, what do you guys think about this fight? What do you think about it? How do you think it will go? I will hold off on making my pick, but like I said, I'm rooting for Brian Norman to win this one. Anyway, share your thoughts below. Beanie Guy Del Boy. Peace.